Hey, I'm Eric Blumke, Euphoric Guitars. Welcome. I want to give you a quick little getting started on making your own effects pedal. I have chosen to make kind of a big muff knockoff from pedalpcb.com, the bigger Muffin Fuzz. This is for my bass. It's really like the sound of the big muff on the bass, and I want to try it again. So this is my second pedal build. The first one didn't work. Tried to make an octave, and I think we made a series of errors that ended up to something not working. So what am I doing differently this time? The biggest kind of mistake I made was I drilled these holes last. So we populated the circuit board, and then we drilled all the holes, and it didn't fit super well. So some advice I got from the interwebs, just like you're getting right now, is to drill these holes first, and so that you can physically make sure everything's going to fit inside your enclosure. So that's a super handy tip. Pre-drill them first. Well, how do you pre-drill them? How do you know where to lay them out? I think something that can be incredibly handy is the template that it comes with. I had to modify this for the bigger enclosure. This is a much bigger enclosure than this is designed for. But this was really handy to help me get those holes center punched. By center punch, I mean the little scratch awl. So that would have been kind of taped on there. And then mark where those holes are going to get drilled. I then pre-drilled them with an 1/8 inch bit. It was really handy to know it, like to get exactly where I wanted it to. And then of course, something that was really handy is investing in some step bits. Shameless plug, Mastercraft Canadian Tire. These were on sale. I always try to buy on sale from Canadian Tire. And I found them to be excellent. And I actually found them to be so excellent that I didn't need a pre-drill. There was a few holes that I did without pre-drilling, and this thing is perfect. It does a great job cutting a little chamfer on the hole, kind of deburrs it for you. The first time we did this, we were just using twist bits, and they were a pain in the butt. It breaks through, catches the drill, it doesn't really drill the hole well. So that's if you're going to make an investment into a tool and you can afford it, I would say get some step bits. Let's go talk about the board itself. One really handy tip I got off the interweb was to kind of pre-bend those lugs on the PCB, on the potentiometer, so they're facing away from each other a little bit and they're bent back so that when you slip them into the PCB, they hold themselves in. This is super handy. You'll notice I've started populating some of the resistors, and we'll get a little bit more into soldering in another video. But essentially, I clean all the parts first with rubbing alcohol. I found a toothbrush to be really handy. I found a cloth to be really handy. And when this is all done, we'll clean all the flux off with the rubbing alcohol again. What's flux? Tinning flux is a super helpful paste that kind of cleans the joint and helps the joint spread heat out from the soldering iron. So all of these holes with a little bit of flux on my toothpick, I'll make sure I get a little bit of flux into each hole, and then I'll use my little paintbrush. I got my multimeter here. I tested all the resistors to make sure they were the ohmic resistance that I purchased, and they were all very acceptable. And then after I've tested them, I'll flux the contact tips. We'll show you that in another video. We'll get into that, how to actually do the soldering, and then put them in and do the soldering. So the big takeaways here, I think, are use some step bits if you can. Pre-drill your box, pre-drill your enclosure before you start doing your circuit board to make sure it fits. And the last time I didn't do a great job cleaning things, so maybe that's why why the first pedal never worked, because I maybe the solder joints weren't that great. So that's another good takeaway, is kind of keeping everything really clean and using some flux.